Welcome to Sunday School for Sunday, March 10th, 2024, for ages 12 to 14. I do not own the rights to this music. Today's memory verse is this house which is called by my name become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, saith the Lord. From Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 11. The title of today's story, When I'm Angry. George had been in the principal's office a lot over the last 3 weeks. When Mr. Daniels came to escort George to his office, he didn't say anything. He simply pointed his hand down the hall, and they walked into the now too familiar office. They sat for a while before Mr. Daniels said he was considering expulsion. You have to handle your feelings better, Mr. Johnson. We've been over this. George sat with a stony look. He sighed. I don't know what else to do. I know the last month has been difficult. George sat there, staring out the window, imagining that his father would pick him up after school, that he and his mother hadn't had to bury his father. I don't like my teacher. The principal paused, then said, You love Mrs. Wade. You've been out to her house, even, and I know you played basketball with her husband, too. That was before, George snapped. I don't like her anymore. George's father had been a friend of the Wade family, who had been in tears all through the memorial service. You want some ideas on how to handle those feelings? George paused. I don't want to be expelled. Then that's a yes, said the principal. He shrugged. I guess so. Mr. Daniels smiled and said, Well, if you like school, you should be open to new ideas. Then he and George got up and walked over to the counselor's office. At some point, it'll be different. It'll hurt still, but it'll be different. Our lesson scripture coming out of Isaiah chapter 56, verses 6 through 7, Jeremiah chapter 7, verses 9 through 11, and Mark chapter 11, verses 15 through 19. Also, the sons of the stranger that joined themselves to the Lord to serve him and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it and taketh hold of my covenant, even them will I bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon my altar. For my house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 9. Will ye still murder and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other gods whom ye know not? And come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, We are delivered to do all these abominations? Is this house which is called by my name become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, saith the Lord. Mark 11, verse 15. And they come to Jerusalem, and Jesus went into the temple and began to cast out them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers, and the seats of them that sold doves, and would not suffer that any man should carry any vessel through the temple. And he taught, saying unto them, Is it not written, My house shall be called of all nations the house of prayer? But ye have made it a den of thieves. And the scribes and chief priests heard it, and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people was astonished at his doctrine. And when even was come, he went out of the city. Jesus cleanses the temple. The prophet Jeremiah gave an earlier picture of God's wrath when the Israelites mistreated the historical temple. Jesus quoted Jeremiah when he came to the temple of his time and saw what was happening. The temple was no longer a place of prayer and worship, but instead of commercial activity, buying and selling. Jesus, angry about what he had saw, flipped over the tables and drove out the sellers. He did this while quoting Jeremiah to bring them all back to the purpose of gathering together. How to seek God's cleansing. Number 1, think about the things you've done in the day. Number 2, listen to God's voice in your heart. Number 3, Thank God for mercy and grace. Number 4, ask for forgiveness of known and unknown wrongs. Number 5, pray for help for the next day in living for the Lord. Grieving. When an activity becomes rote, the original helpful intent and purpose may be lost. It takes bravery to look at how a relationship has changed and to call others back to an original purpose. How can a good activity be prevented from evolving into an unintended harmful result? Jesus' angry action in the temple called attention to the ways the priests and worshippers had lost sight of the tradition of God's dwelling place. Loss of all kinds happens to us. Grieving is appropriate when something's ended that we wanted to continue. Seeing a person leave, for example, makes us think about life differently. We can express our feelings honestly and try to pursue wholeness. Remembering people. Relationships change and some of them end. Are there people you've loved who have moved away, died, or stopped being your friend? Think about a person who has left in some way and write them a note telling them about the ways they impacted your life. If you can't send it to them, decide what you might do with it, even if it's discarding it or giving it to a trusted person. Daily Bible readings for the week. Monday, the topic is the Holy Temple. Read Habakkuk chapter 2, verses 18 through 20. Tuesday, the topic is the house of the Lord. Read Psalms chapter 27, verses 1 through 5. Wednesday, the topic is I cried for help. Read Psalms 18, verses 1 through 6. Thursday, the topic is My prayer came to you. Read Jonah chapter 2, verses 1 through 9. Friday, the topic is Something Greater Than the Temple. Read Matthew chapter 12, verses 1 through 8. Saturday, the topic is A Holy Temple in the Lord. Read, read Ephesians chapter 2, verses 11 through 22. And on Sunday, the topic is a house of prayer. Read Isaiah chapter 56, verses 6 through 7, Jeremiah chapter 7, verses 9 through 11, and Mark chapter 11, verses 15 through 19. The end. God bless you and thank you for joining me today.